Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06, and we are so loaded for bear here this morning. I'm glad you're with us, too, because there's a lot of stories to get to. And at 7:35, Ned Ryun, American Majority, will help us sift through the trial in New York. I thought it was about falsifying business records. But boy, yesterday, there wasn't much about business records.
It was about embarrassing.
Yeah, it was like you were watching late night Cinemax in the 90s.
Oh my God.
At 8:05, Julie Kelly will be joining us on what the FBI and Jack Smith's office did to earn the postponement of the classified documents trial. And then at 8:35, Jamie Brennan running for Frederick County School Board. That is Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
I am Larry O'Connor, and this is Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch. And Tom, listen, you have been, from the moment that FBI raid at Mar-a-Lago occurred, you have been all over the outrageous behavior of the Biden Justice Department and Christopher Wray's FBI. So get us up to speed here. What happened yesterday to compel Judge Cannon to indefinitely postpone this criminal proceeding?
Well, it wasn't much of a surprise in the sense that this was a complicated, I wouldn't even say that complicated, but complicated case that required more time for her to adjudicate. She had a lot of work to do. There's a lot of pre-trial motions that related to the handling of classified information, evidence and such. So it's no surprise that a May 20th or 24th date wasn't going to work. That would have been in a week and a half. So now, until those various issues are resolved, she can't set a trial date. She's not even going to try. There's nothing unusual about a case of this nature, or frankly, a less complicated case, taking as long, if not longer, before it sees the light of a courtroom trial.
When I keep hearing from cable news anchors who are just dying to see the perp walk where Donald Trump is in the black and white horizontal stripes with a little, like the Monopoly man with a little ball attached to his ankle, like that's what they're envisioning. They keep saying these are delay tactics. Is that what's going on here, or is it actual standard judicial and due process happening?
That's right. The left doesn't want Trump to have any due process rights or any constitutional rights. And they want snap trials so they can get their pound of flesh and try to put him in jail or convict him before the election. But that's not the way our justice system is supposed to work. And by the left, I mean Joe Biden and Jack Smith, his minion there in Florida in this case. And so at least one federal judge wasn't going to play the game. Judge Chutkan was willing to play the game to a certain extent up here in D.C. and put him through a snap trial, but the courts intervened above her, including the Supreme Court of the United States. So, the left keeps on losing on their abuses, but in many ways winning on the process, which, of course, is the punishment, as we're seeing up in New York.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the judges. Judge Eileen Cannon, she seems to be a real bulwark against some of the abuse coming at President Trump. But Jack Smith wants her to recuse herself, and we see that demand from other sort of members of the media and powerful forces out there. What is her status? Is she holding strong? Does she feel the pressure of recusal? She doesn't seem to be showing that at all, especially with this latest ruling. Just trying to get an update on her from you.
Oh, it's a nutty idea that she would have to recuse herself because of scheduling disputes with the prosecution. It's just plain nutty. She's not doing anything extraordinary. She's demonstrated no bias in a way to warrant recusal. She doesn't meet the standards for recusal by any stretch of the imagination. And the fact that there's anyone out there who considers themselves a serious commentator, or in the case of Jack Smith, threatening the judge with recusal and other moves in the appellate court. I mean, to me, this is just power politics. It has nothing to do with the rule of law.
Tom Fitton is our guest from Judicial Watch. And Tom, you were a valuable voice sort of dissecting the impeachment process against Donald Trump, the first impeachment over the phone call to Ukrainian President Zelensky and the alleged withholding of aid to Ukraine. I'd love for you to reflect on that experience and seeing how that process transpired in the House, run by Nancy Pelosi, with this latest news that Joe Biden and the Biden administration has secretly ended or paused military aid to Israel. This is aid that was literally just voted on weeks ago. And they didn't disclose this pause of precision bombs that are due to go to Israel. They didn't disclose that to Congress. Is it fair to draw some comparisons here?
Remember when you were in school, when you were younger, you were given essay assignments? Mm-hmm. Compare and contrast.
Yeah.
So all your listeners should compare and contrast President Trump's decision to ask questions about why we were sending aid to Ukraine in light of Ukraine's intervention in our elections and corruption there concerning Joe Biden, with Joe Biden's decision to delay armaments to Israel in the middle of a war that everyone agrees that they seemingly should win.
Yeah.
In response to communist demonstrations here at home and the prospects he might lose some votes.
I mean,
I'll contrast the reaction from what I call the Borg here in Washington, D.C.
Well, I don't know if this is going to be on the test or not, Professor Fitton, but my quick answer to that was what Trump was doing, you can argue, was definitely in the best interest of the American people, because we shouldn't be sending money to a corrupt nation, especially a nation that proactively intervened in a president or attempted to intervene in a presidential election. Meanwhile, what Biden's doing undermines our ally, goes against the best interests of the American people, and certainly since 80% of the American people support the Iranian effort, flies in the face of what the popular sentiment is in this country. I feel like there is a bit of a distinction.
Yes, and under the Trump rules, therefore, Biden must be impeached.
Right. Mm. Yeah, I mean, that's the precedent that they set. I mean, one could argue that the commander-in-chief should have a certain discretion over America's foreign policy, but they threw that out the window when they impeached Trump over this, didn't they?
Yeah, very different rules for Trump. He deserves no due process. He can't actually act as president when he's president, but then Joe Biden comes in and he's treated with kid gloves on these very issues.
Tom, also there's been misdeeds, I think, from Christopher Wray's FBI back to the classified document case. We've got Julie Kelly coming up in an hour. She's been doing some great reporting on this. But it was revealed in Jack Smith's own legal filings that famous picture of the classified documents, alleged classified documents that Donald Trump had in his possession at Mar-a-Lago, they were strewn across the floor. The FBI strewn them across the floor. But not only that, those giant red letter cover letters that said classified, top secret, it was the FBI that put those red documents on there on the picture. Those weren't attached to the documents that Donald Trump had. So that entire photo that was leaked to the media was staged 100% by Christopher Wray's FBI.
Exactly. And arguably as worse, if not worse, is the admission that they lost track of where the classified records were while they were doing that staging.
Yeah.
Where you find them and where they are is important to the case, and they lost track. And they were messing with, because they were so interested in PR and messing and moving the documents around, they now don't know where they found allegedly certain classified information, because I don't really think any of it's really classified because he had it, so therefore it was unclassified.
Right, yeah.
But if they were so concerned, they couldn't bother to be tracking and lost track of where they were in the boxes because they were so desperate.
That's right.
to make Trump look foolish. And on top of that, it's evidence to me of evidence tampering, and as the Trump's team described yesterday, spoliation. They spoiled the evidence. They corrupted the evidence.
Yeah. Tom, if we were playing compare and contrast some more, by the way, we could compare and contrast how the Justice Department handled Biden's misuse of classified documents too, but sadly we're out of time. Always good to talk to you, my friend. Thank you for fighting the fight there with judicialwatch.org. Thanks, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's 7:15.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live.
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Traffic and weather brought to you by Hadid Carpet Cleaning.
On the next Vince Colonnade Show, the commies at GWU University continue their chaos, and Congress hauls in the mayor for answers. Join us 3 to 6 right here on WMAL.
Well, it is now official. The Boy Scouts are no longer the Boy Scouts. Some would argue that it's been many years since the Boy Scouts have been the Boy Scouts, at least as we have known the Boy Scouts to be in the past. But they made it official in terms of their name. They are no longer the Boy Scouts. They are now, what is it, Scouts of America?
Scouts of America, yes. Scouting America.
Scouting America. There you go. That's the official name of this sadly deteriorating organization. And you Julie, you've got boys who have been involved in Boy Scouts, right?
Yeah, and I've actually written about the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, and that the Boy Scouts were in a lot of trouble because of some lawsuits related to sexual misconduct, and they settled that, and then they went into bankruptcy, and their numbers were down, recruitment was down, and also there's competition now. There's a lot of sort of competing boy organizations, and there's competition also for the Girl Scouts. Now, the Girl Scouts, there were increasing complaints about Girl Scouts being too crafty and girly, and girls wanted to camp and they wanted to learn how to, build a fire and sort of survivalist things that the Boy Scouts were doing. And seeing that demand, the Boy Scouts then decided to open it up to girls, and so they have separate sort of little dens for Girl Scout that are all girls. They welcomed in girls, and then they created these separate dens. So they are separate, but at some of the jamborees and other things, the girls and boys do mix. And again, then the magazine became sort of unisex or gender neutral, and it went away from a strictly boys sort of club.
Yeah.
And look, this is wrong. Instead of improving the Girl Scouts and adding in more rigorous survivalist programs, they abandoned the Girl Scouts and they came over to the Boy Scouts. And again, girls and boys, especially when they're young like that, there is plenty of data and evidence that shows that that sequestering boys from girls, having a boys only club and a girls only club, actually helps boys and girls develop. They feel more confident. They take more risks. Boys, when girls are there, they don't play as rough. When and girls sometimes feel like they're dominated by boys. So there's all these problems. And so instead of, again, improving your individual clubs, the Boy Scouts has really ruined itself by including girls, and then the Girl Scouts are still dealing with lower numbers.
They haven't solved anything. They've just ruined both.
That's right.
Basically.
That's right.
And I would argue that was the intention all along. You see, the Boy Scouts, people don't know this, at the Naval Academy, to get into to be considered for the Naval Academy, you either have to be the child of a veteran of the military, or you have to be nominated by your local congressman or senator, or if you're an Eagle Scout. Yeah. See, that this is what Boy Scouts at its heart is about raising young boys in America to embrace American values. By the way, Christian values originally. I don't know if that's even part of it anymore. Christian values, or at the very least Judeo-Christian values, since they do take an oath to God. But there's also patriotism built into the equation, love of this country, and the understanding of sacrifice and military commitment. The Scouts often do a lot of things with law enforcement and military. These are institutions that are you said bulwark earlier, those were the bulwark to the Marxist left in this country. Yeah. And they were organized. And you're right, all of the things you just detailed, but you left one thing out, and I'll go ahead and touch that third rail. I think this all began back in the 90s when there was a push. There were openly gay scouts who were kicked out of Boy Scouts because of that. You may agree or disagree whether Boy Scouts should have done that, but the Boy Scouts had the right to do that.
Absolutely.
Because they're the private club that sets their own rules. And they said that for the cohesiveness of the troop, when they're on overnights with their camp, if you're openly gay, it's not infitting. And they were forced through lawfare and through legal lawsuits to change that policy. And that, I believe, was the beginning.
I will tell you, yet again, this is another wonderful American institution that celebrated traditional values. being taken over by radical leftists. This is no different from the Girl Scouts, which was also taken over by radical leftists and then began to partner with Planned Parenthood.
Right.
So we're seeing the same thing develop here. When they changed the policy and accepted girls in 2007, the Boy Scouts put out a statement that said they are reflecting the changing nature of American life.
There you go.
When these organizations understand that the changing nature of American life isn't always good, and they are going to stand for traditional values, they won't lose people. The reason the Boy Scouts has been hemorrhaging membership is because of exactly that. They are reflecting the changing nature of American life. They shouldn't.
That's not what Boy Scouts is supposed to be.
That's not why we've signed up.
Real quickly, we had said, listen, you don't like the Girl Scouts, fix the Girl Scouts or come up with an alternative that, the free market. That is what happened. You just mentioned this. If you don't want your kid to be in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts because they've gotten woke, there are competitive alternatives now, right?
Yeah.
Do you know? Maybe we should. You know what? Let's put a feeler out to some of the organizations and maybe have some of them on, because I know that there are, especially that cater to girls and have them. They go canoeing and camping and all that stuff.
I'm so mad at myself because I'm forgetting. It's like American something girls. I have like 15 friends out there that are right now texting me.
Exactly.
Going,
so we'll get one of those troop leaders on, and we'll maybe so we can inform our listeners that there are alternatives, that they're sick and tired and done with Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. Yeah.
Those groups are growing.
Yeah, and they will grow even further, and the Boy Scouts will diminish. That's what happens when you ruin your brand, and did they ever. Yeah. And it's a heartache. 724.
Making sense of your world.
Talk radio is where I get all of my information.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
Making sense of the news now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:37. Thanks for tuning in here to O'Connor and Company on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news. I don't say that very often, but it's the thing. So I just thought I'd throw it out.
It's what we do.
It is. We try. Yeah. It's hard. Some days are easier than others. 8:05. Julie Kelly will join us. She's making sense of the political assassination attempt through the judicial system of Donald Trump, and it's fallen apart down in Florida on the classified documents case. Julie Kelly will join us then. And at 8:35, Jamie Brennan running for Frederick County School Board in Maryland. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
And by the way, real fast, a friend of our show and listener, Jessica, lets us know that the number one, it seems like the most popular replacements for Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts now would be Trail Life for boys. That's what it's called, Trail Life?
Yes.
And for girls, American Heritage Girls. I've heard about that.
And I have good friends that are part of both of those, obviously.
There you go.
I just had a brain fart. I forgot.
No, that's fine.
They were. But those are great.
I prefer the brain version than the alternate. So, Jessica, thank you for reminding us of that. Thank you for being a loyal listener, and please stop stalking me. Joining us now is Ned Ryun. She is the CEO of American Majority. Good morning, Ned. Good to talk with you.
Hey, good morning. Good to be with you guys.
Where do we start? I think, well, the Trump trial going on right now in New York, I've been calling this forever, that they keep calling it the hush money to a porn star trial, which, of course, that's not what it's about. It's about falsifying financial records. But all they wanted was the moment they got yesterday. Stormy Daniels talking about intimate details of her alleged relationship with Donald Trump, which, by the way, she swore in a legal document, an affidavit, that never happened, right? That was the whole point of the non-disclosure agreement. But, Ned, why did we even have that? How is yesterday's testimony and all the tawdry little National Enquirer-style details, how is that relevant to the actual criminal case?
Well, Larry, you ask a very good question, because it's not in any way. No, they wanted to try and humiliate Trump, bring her up on the stands, and as many salacious details as possible. The problem is, the cross-examination just absolutely devastating. And by the way, they keep on calling her the adult film star. She's a porn star.
Yeah.
She's porn.
Which, by the way, is basically prostitution. You get paid to.
Right.
The only difference is cameras are there.
So they wanted to bring her up to embarrass, humiliate, damage Trump. I really do believe it backfired I mean, the cross-examination was brutal.
Talk us through the cross-examination, because of course that's not getting as much attention in the news media.
Well, they got Stormy to admit she absolutely hates Trump. They got her to admit that some of the tweets that she's been sending out, she's the one that actually wrote them. Got her to admit that, in fact, she has not paid one dime of the money that is actually owed to Trump, 6 figures worth, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So all these things, hate him.
By the way, she owes him that money because she violated their legal agreement, right? And but, if he's convicted, she probably won't have to pay him that money. So she has a vested interest in this.
Totally. Everybody in this case on the other side seems to have a vested interest in this being successful against Trump. I mean, the judge himself is heavily conflicted. His daughter's been raising a ton of money off of this. Mm-hmm. And, Stormy has obviously financial interest in this going a certain way. No, but I think, Larry, the thing that really is being highlighted by this case is one of my theories that I've had for a long time. A lot of people were kind of doomsday about this lawfare against Trump. They're going to get him on something. They're going to actually, get Trump. I've been on the flip side of that coin, in which I truly believe, because this is all spurious, based off political lawfare. I mean, the basis for all of this has really no legal foundation. It's all political lawfare to damage the chief political opponent. So my theory has been that this will all start to collapse. And as it starts to collapse in an election year, the normies, the people that aren't like us, that don't follow politics every day, all day, are going to look at this and go, yeah, this is truly political lawfare meant to achieve political means by taking out Donald Trump, Joe Biden's chief opponent for the White House. Totally. And I think that's starting to happen. I really felt this case, first of all, they were trying to say misdemeanor plus a misdemeanor equals a felony, which, by the way, this is all supposed to be a federal case, and it's not. It's a local DA, Soros DA. So I think we're starting to see this. I know Julie Kelly's on later to talk about the Florida case and Jack Smith. Yeah. I think we're watching this all start to collapse in real time, and I think the normies are going to wake up and go, yep, it's what we were told, and now we see it for ourselves, and it's going to cause a surge in the polls for Trump.
Yeah, Ned, and that's one good thing. It's hard not to be an Eeyore sometimes about this stuff, but that is good that the American public are not being fooled by this. But what do you think it says about the legal profession and the judicial system in America? Because there are no consequences. These prosecutors are doing this, and there's no Fannie Willis. I mean, look what happened to her. And there were no consequences to her actions besides having to fire her boyfriend. So what's your position on that?
This to me is deeply troubling. I mean, it's late stage republic behavior.
Yeah.
When you look at late stage Roman Republic, they started to use the legal system as a political tool against political opponents over, quite frankly, you would say policy differences. And that's what this really is. It's a devastating, poisonous pill for our country that they would think you could use the legal system as a political weapon. There have to be consequences. I think at some point, I would hope that there would be serious consequences for those that have actually done this. Trump has mentioned that maybe perhaps Jack Smith should be on trial. I don't disagree. I think he has lied. I think he has manipulated documents. And I think there's others at the FBI and DOJ who've done the same. At some point, there have to be serious consequences, or this will happen again. And this is my frustration over the whole Russian collusion hoax.
Yeah.
There were no consequences for the FISA abuse. And so now what do you think is going to happen the next time? It will be even worse. At some point, if there are no consequences.
Yeah. You have to punish people, otherwise they keep doing it. That's anybody who has kids knows that. Yeah. Ned Ryun, American Majority. Real fast, you're out in Virginia 10, which is going to be a hotly contested congressional race right now. Your representative, Jennifer Wexton, boy, she's really ending on a high note. But I know that the clamor in Loudoun and the whole area of Virginia 10 was just so overwhelmingly loud. We must rename the Purcellville Post Office for the late Madeleine Albright. And Jennifer Wexton delivered for you. How excited are you to go and pick up your packages from the Madeleine Albright Post Office?
Yeah, that's painful. Sadly, it passed overwhelmingly. Yeah. I've decided our revenge needs to be when we keep, hopefully, the House majority, take the Senate, have the White House. We're going to rename Dulles the Donald Trump International Airport. That is my revenge for them
Ronald
naming
Reagan,
Purcellville.
That'd be beautiful.
You
Where are
do
you
that-
flying out of, Reagan or Trump?
No, they're all going to BWI.
Yeah, exactly. That's my revenge. That's what I'm going to insist on. You rename
right,
my
Ned.
post office for that woman. I want my airport.
Ned Ryun, American Majority. Thank you, sir. By the way,
All right,
I mean,
thanks, guys.
here on this program, we're a little torn about this whole Madeleine Albright thing. I mean,
Are
I
we?
didn't agree with her.
Are we torn?
Well, we respect our listeners, and you might not know this, but
I do
here's
know
here's
this.
a little flashback for you. When you approached our console, you said you listened to WMAL all the time. Were you just saying, are you just being a D.C. politician?
No, I am not. I'll tell you something. What is important is to listen to people with whom you disagree. And I do disagree with a lot of the things I've heard on WMAL. But I listen every morning as I drive to the office.
There you go. There you go. So we lost a listener when Madeleine Albright passed away.
I am not swayed. But good
You
for
still
her.
don't want a post office.
No.
By the way, that was we were up in New Hampshire covering the 2016 primaries, and she was there doing Radio Row on behalf of her candidate, Hillary Clinton.
Who remember, you'll recall, she said you're a traitor. As a woman, you're a traitor if you do not.
That's Madeleine Albright then called. I
Yes.
believe that was during the same trip there when she
Yeah.
was up there in
You're
New
a
Hampshire
traitor
in
if you do not,
2016.
if you're a woman and you do not support Hillary.
You're not
a
an
traitor.
authentic woman.
Mhm.
Yeah. Of course, Hillary Clinton lost.
So I'm with Ned.
Hillary
No
Clinton
post
lost.
office
Hillary
in
Clinton will
person.
never be president either.
Right.
But she'll have a post office named after her, where she can pick up. Well, she doesn't need a post office. She has her own email server.
Right.
It's 7:45 WMA. All right, quickly, we'll give you an update here from George Washington University. At 3:30 this morning, police moved in and got rid of the illegal encampment. Earlier, we spoke with Julio Rosas, independent journalist who was there on behalf of the Blaze.
The initial push from law enforcement happened around, like as you mentioned, 3 a.m. this morning. It came a few hours after protesters went to GWU's president's house to protest. And campus police gave them a warning saying that if they did not leave, that they would then be arrested. That was then followed up from the Metropolitan Police Department, so DC's city police, also gave them warnings. And once it became clear that the people that stayed behind were not going to leave, that's when I'm told that the officers went in. And I can't report.
Oh, he was about to tell you he can report there's a lot of arrests. I cut him off there, including 4 arrests for assaulting an officer. We don't have any more details of that. They did employ pepper spray because things got kind of nasty. You can see Julio's videos, by the way, either on the X platform or at the Blaze. Also, I'm sure this is a coincidence, Julie, but the event took place this morning with the police finally clearing that illegal encampment in George Washington. And later today, Mayor Muriel Bowser will testify before the Oversight Committee.
Oh, she's got some good news to
Well, she was
report.
called in to explain why she hasn't done anything.
How convenient.
I'm sure it's just a coincidence. 7:50.